Hello everyone, welcome back to this week's episode of Wholeness with Hannah. This week I am joined by the gorgeous, wonderful Jade Mordente. She is a tarot reader, a Reiki Master and meditation guide whose work blends a modern approach to traditional spiritual practices. I've had two incredible tarot readings with Jade over the last couple of years, maybe 18 months, and every time I've left feeling seen, grounded and more connected to myself and my path. But before founding her wellness studio, Jade spent years in fast-paced fashion world as a project manager and producer, an experience that shaped her passion for creating space to slow down, reconnect and practice intuitive self-care. Through her work, Jade uses tarot as a tool for empowerment and spiritual wellness, and her sessions invite you to reflect, accept, heal and grow, breaking cycles, restoring confidence, releasing stress, and revealing potential paths forward. So in this conversation, we are going to dive into the world of tarot, how it really works, how it can support your personal growth, and why it's such a powerful tool for self-awareness and empowerment. So hello Jade, thank you for joining me.
Hello, thanks for having me on. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, I've been wanting to do an episode on tarot for ages and you were the one I knew I wanted, so this is really exciting.
Me too. I'm so excited to be here. Honestly, I love the podcast and everything that you're doing, so this is great.
Oh, thank you. So do you want to just tell us a bit about, I mean, I know I mentioned in the intro, but a bit about your journey and how you've ended up into tarot?
Yeah, definitely. So my journey with spirituality really started from as far back as I can remember. I've always been able to see, sense, feel spirit around me, which as a young girl was really scary and overwhelming and not something that I particularly understood at all. So this kind of coincided with me on this unintentional spiritual journey and going through like a little bit of stress and trauma, and my parents ended up putting me to a counsellor / hypnotherapist / psychic who worked with me for a good few years, probably about 3 years in total. And together we really looked at all aspects of how hypnotherapy can heal the mind, how we can release trauma from the body with like crystals. We looked at oracle cards at the time, and it really opened up my whole world to spiritual practices in a way that I really didn't know before. I was always involved. I would always go to spiritual church. I would always be going to I just loved anything that was like a little bit witchy, a little bit, that kind of vibe. And I ended up working in London, working in fashion, as you said, went to uni. And it was during that time that I went for a proper tarot reading with this amazing man called Billy. And the reading at the time blew me away. And I just kind of fell in love with the cards. He actually gave me a deck of cards and was like, listen, you should be doing this yourself. You could take these cards. You can make money in London doing this. And I was like, no, I will not. I loved going to it, but I really didn't necessarily feel it was something that I had. I used to think, oh, it's a gift. You've got to have this power. You've got to be able to, I thought it was something that you had to be kind of passed down through families at that time. So I was a bit like, oh, no, that's not for me. And, loved the practice and had the cards. And now and again, I would dabble, I would pull a card, and it was always spookily accurate, of course. And it would always be giving me guidance that I really needed. Not that I always wanted, but always what I needed. And it was from there that my love for it just grew and grew to the point that I was like, no, these cards are a tool. I began to see them less as a scary thing that was going to predict the future and could tell me like an awful thing was going to happen. And I began to see them more as a tool for my mental health. And it was through that relationship that I kind of developed with the cards that I then decided to start doing it on friends, start doing it as a business, and it's grown from there. And my love for them has obviously just grown as the practice has.
Yeah, I love that. And as I mentioned, I've had a couple of readings with you, and I've had like various tarot readings over the years, but your energy and the way you do it is different. It's been definitely the best I've experienced.
Thank you.
I'm glad you did get into it. So for anyone new to tarot then, because a lot of people have heard of it, but not everyone's had a reading, and as you said, some people are a bit more skeptical of it. So how would you describe what tarot actually is?
Yeah, that's such a good question, because I really think tarot, a lot of people have a perception of tarot of a film where it's like you turn the death card and it's like spooky and it's scary. We really think of it not in a modern way. I think a lot of people still think of it as dancing with the devil, which is what older generations used to call it, which is so far removed from the truth. What tarot is an indication. Imagine they're like a mirror to your subconscious, is the best way. It's looking at what you really need to be aware of. That could be the good things that are going on in your life and where you really need to lean in to see results. It could be the things that you're suppressing, you're hiding from yourself, you're not seeing clearly. If you held up this mirror to your subconscious, it's just like, this is everything that you need to work on, and for good or bad. And I think that when we look at them like that, they hold symbolism, they hold structure, they hold messages that you can take in so many different ways. So the same card could mean totally different things for you, for me, depending on what we're going through in our life, but it will always hold some kind of insight and wisdom that will guide your path ahead. So it's less like fortune telling and it's more like life coaching with spirit, is how I would see it. The cards themselves hold a frequency. Every card holds a frequency. So the cards that you're drawn to are the ones that you need to see.
Amazing. And the tarot deck has certain meanings for each card, right? But as you said, you can interpret them so differently depending on the person, right? And what's happening. So how do you personally do that? Is yours also quite intuitive, the way you read them?
What I love about this tarot is that if I've got a client coming in who is a real sort of spiritual girl, I can read them really intuitively, and I could make our our session really based on like energy healing, and we can look at with crystals, we can bring in scents, aromatherapy, we can do all of that stuff that will really suit her needs. But if I have a client who is an accountant, works in corporate, is a lawyer, someone who likes logistical, practical solutions to things, you can look at the structure of the cards. So you can read either through the structure of, like, for example, what an ace means, what an eight means, what the pentacles mean. You can look at it in a structure, or you can take that and you could be really intuitive and fluid with it. My approach, I blend the two. So there's a basic structure, but I also use my intuition to guide it person by person. So I love to bring in Reiki, energy healing, crystals, because I just think it makes it a really holistic experience. But you can definitely, one card could be perceived in so many different ways. It kind of depends where it falls, what the person is going through. Reflecting their energy type is kind of how you work it.
Yeah, amazing. And do you often get your client to ask, you get them to ask a question, right? You say, like, what do you want to focus on today? And then each card will obviously mean different things depending on what they're focusing on. Is that correct?
Yeah. So you could pull the Ace of Wands, let's say, and you're asking me about a new job, and it's like, go, 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 yep, new job, it's going to happen, it's going to have so much potential, there's so much passion behind this, definitely take the jump. Similarly, you could be asking me about the Ace of Wands as someone who's already in a serious committed relationship. So then the Ace of Wands is a new cycle, could be within that relationship. Are you looking to buy a house together? Are you looking to get engaged? So you can see how the one card can have different, it has the same essence, which is like a new beginning led by passion, but it could be taken in different ways depending on the question.
Yeah. And how can tarot then help people connect with their own intuition? So if they were to pull cards for themselves.
So something I always recommend, and one of the ways that I fell in love with the practice was to be honest, I did it whenever I was going through a difficult time. I would recommend people doing it regardless of what they're going through. But whenever I was going through a stress at work, I was burnt out, I was going through difficulty in my love life, whatever it happened to be, I would consult my tarot deck and ask them, well, what should I be doing? How should I move forward? And as I said, the answers were spookily accurate, of course. And it gave me a daily sort of anchor or compass as to how to grow out of a situation. Whereas I think if you're just doing it every single day, depending whether it's a good day, a bad day, I think you just get so much, you get to know yourself, you get to understand what's really going on. We all live in such a fast-paced world, and I'm so big on understanding, like, but how do I actually feel? Like, what do I actually need? Not what I think I should need, not what I've been told I should need, but what do I actually need? And I think that's what the cards can give you.
Yeah, that's amazing. What kind of themes tend to come up in readings for people? What do most people want to know about?
Love.
Yeah.
Always love.
Yeah.
And I understand it. And I think there is such for women our age, Hannah, I think that a lot of us understand our career. We might be a little bit lost on it. We might be making a change. We might be making a pivot. But I think a lot of us kind of have a direction. Even if we're not on the right path yet, we kind of know the path that we want to be on. We usually either live with our friends, a partner, or, things like that, or by ourselves, whatever way we are. But love is such an unknown. And then you start to have the pressure as a woman of, am I going to have children? And what does that look like? And when? And society begins to ask us constantly, are you in love? What does that look like? When are you going to get married? When are you going to have kids? So that's the main question that comes up. I'd say my typical age demographic is like, the women who come to me tend to be around about 27 to 35, 38. So it's quite a hot topic in that space.
And is it mainly women?
Yes, I work with men too, and if men come to me, absolutely. But I always say, yeah, the girls and the gays is who I usually get. That's like, and I love it because I feel like a lot of the people who come are just open-minded and curious, really getting to know themselves, really ready to explore their inner world. Whereas I think sometimes, and not in any way to stereotype at all, but I do sometimes think there's more of a hindrance for certain types of men. Men who are maybe more versed in the intuitive spiritual world, absolutely, they're so ready for it. But a lot of men I have found in my practice, are still a little bit scared to open up. And as I said, it's a mirror to your subconscious. So you've got this whole, I'm going to really see the depths of what's going on and maybe confront you with it. And that could be quite triggering if you're not used to those conversations.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah. It's a different dynamic, isn't it?
It's a different dynamic.
But, yeah. And do you find most people, or I don't know, maybe not most, but however many, do people come looking for answers to how their future is going to go still? Or do you feel that you tend to not attract that sort of client?
I think they usually come saying, well, what is it going to look like? And I always come back with, well, you're always in control. You're co-creating with the cards. So I can tell you, what I usually say is I can give you a path and options that would really serve your highest self and would really fulfill your potential. But you can leave here and not take any of those steps. Therefore, if you're not going to take the steps, you have to have action for the solution as well. So if you're not willing to take the action steps, you probably won't see the results. So it's not a magic wand, but it's definitely a pathway. And at any given time, as you know, there's multiple pathways happening. You could take multiple different approaches. So it's kind of like you've always got control. So it can't predict the future, but it can guide it.
Yeah, and I think the prediction of the future is either what people want or what people don't want. I do think there's sometimes a fear around going to see a tarot reader and being told, this terrible thing's going to happen. But I know that you don't focus on anything to do like that, do you, in your sessions?
No, even if some things come up, so for example, a relationship's going through a rocky patch, or you're really struggling with work and you know that you're not in the right place, or you've got aspects of things like depression, anxiety, even when those things come up, which they often do, living in the modern world that we're in, everyone's quite anxious. It's never said in a way that it's like, this relationship's going to end and, everything's going wrong for you. It's always said like, okay, here are your options. If you did decide to leave this job, this relationship, this location, what would life look like? So it's always done with an empowering, positive, sort of, supportive spin, I would say.
Is there such thing as a breakup card?
There's not. Things like the Tower could indicate sudden change. Things like the Seven of Swords could indicate someone not being honest. Usually, if I say, I can see there's maybe been a bit of tension or a bit of conflict, it's not a surprise. It's not like anyone's ever like, oh my goodness, no, we're so perfect. It's always like, things have been difficult recently. And they kind of bring it to me before I have to say it.
Yeah, because that's the beauty of the cards, isn't it? It's actually reflecting what's already in your energy. You're not going in saying, I see this going to happen for you. You're reading the cards that have come up in connection to them and their energy, which I think people don't think people really know that. I don't think people understand that about the tarot. Like, it is a reflection of you rather than someone saying this is going to happen, like a crystal ball.
Yes, exactly. So you would never really say something that deep down someone doesn't already know.
Deep down, that's the difference, isn't
That
it?
is the difference.
Can you talk us through the deck a little bit? So, like, I know there's the major arcana and the minor arcana.
Yeah,
And
so
yeah,
I read the Rider-Waite-Smith variation of tarot. There's different types of tarot cards. There's loads and loads of cards available, as you'll know yourself. There's like millions of different types of decks. Most of the ones that we'll read in the West derive from the Rider-Waite-Smith sort of lineage, pathway, whatever you would call that. So that's what I read with. So in that, I've got the She-Wolf deck here, which is a gorgeous deck, really empowering, really feminine. I think you said you've got this one yourself. It's gold leaf,
I have.
pink gold
Yes,
leaf.
it's beautiful.
It is
I was
gorgeous.
sucked in by the design.
Yes, really beautiful women. And I think it's so important with all of my decks. I always make sure there's representation of everyone. I personally, for clients, use the Modern Witch deck, which highly recommend because it shows diversity, inclusion, and everyone is seen in that deck. The original tarot deck, the original Rider-Waite-Smith, was released in 1909, 1910. So therefore, it's a lot of like straight white couples, and we don't want that. We want to really have everyone be seen in the tarot. So yeah, the tarot is broken up into two main sections, which is the major and the minor arcana. The major arcana has 22 cards, and then the minors have, what's 12? No, my maths is shocking
How
here.
many is there?
There's
There's
four
the ace to the...
subsections, ace to 10, and then page, knight, queen, king. So 14 times 4, what's that?
Oh my God. 56?
56, yes. Okay, so there's 22 and 56. And then within the minor arcana, there's another 4 subsections, which can be broken down from ace through to 10, and then the court cards, which are page, knight, queen, king. So there's that structure to the card. So you're always going to have a way that you can bring in things like the elements, earth, air, fire, water. You can bring in, as I said, your structure. You've got your ace through to 10. You know what every one of those numbers means. You know what the court cards mean, and then you can pair it with the element. So there's so many ways of reading the cards, but the major arcana, the best way to think of it are the major arcana, the first set, they're sort of indicative of your overall life path. So they're not showing me what you do for work and who you hang out with and how you spend your spare time. They're showing me, what is Hannah's soul mission? Will she have, like these massive overarching themes that can take place in any person's life. A really beautiful way of thinking about it is it begins with the Fool and it ends with the World as your kind of bookmarks. And you can see it as a young person's journey through life. And that cycle, everything about the tarot is cyclical, which I love because everything in life is, the birth, death, rebirth cycle, everything is constantly happening, the lunar cycle, everything. So you can see the Fool as a young person and all of the trials and triumphs they're going to face to accomplish the World, which is when they're at their sort of prime, when they've got the wisdom, they've got the answers, they went through the highs and lows. But then they have to restart again at the Fool at some point. Everything has a start, middle and end to it. So that's how you would kind of read the majors, and they hold a lot of weight in reading. If I pull a major arcana card for you, I know this is a fundamentally challenging or wonderful time in your life, and I know that's going to shape the trajectory of where you're going to go from here. So if I pull, for example, you would be really, recently anyway, you would be really suited to the Judgment card, the sense of awakening, really finding your purpose, listening to the call of like, what do I really want from life? So fundamentally, you have changed like direction from what you once were to where you were going. And that card would be really indicative of that.
Yeah, interesting, because when I had a reading with you, I think it was more towards the start of 2024, the first time I ever had a
Hmm.
reading with you. You pulled the judgment card.
Did
I
I?
remember because it was about when you didn't know this about me at the time, but I really wanted to quit my job,
Mhm.
everything I knew. And I think I was going to do it, but the reason I'd had the tarot was to just get some bit more clear. And the first thing you said was, "Oh, we've got the judgment card. Are you at a crossroads? Like there's a lot of change and you want to maybe go a different path and you want to follow something that feels more like your soul." And I was like, "Yes."
And here we are.
Yeah, yeah. And in that reading, I remember, well, actually, it was what we know. It was over 18 months ago, and those things have happened. I quit the job about a month after the reading,
Yeah.
and I focused. I remember you saying, like, I'm going to be seen and I'm meant to be speaking. And obviously, I had the podcast then. And yeah, we've still done that. And the 10 of Pentacles, which was multiple different things that I was
Hmm.
going to do, not just focus on one thing, which I felt really strongly about. So, yeah, it all new. And I remember at the end of the reading, I think it was the 10 of Swords, which is a bit more, is there like something going on in your subconscious?
Hmm.
And it was more about me and a fear I held about the future of what that could look like with kids and stuff. And I remember you saying like you need to work through that, and I was like, oh God, I really do. So like it highlighted something that I just didn't really want to focus on, but I needed to.
I love that. Yeah, I remember that reading so clearly because it was so powerful. And yeah, even there, I still
Yeah.
feel like you just took you really listened to your you listened to your inner awakening and you were like, I know I need more and I just need to make the jump. And you have, and you should be so proud of yourself. But, think about your trajectory. If you had stayed in corporate, how different things would look
Yeah.
and how
But I
different
think
life
I
would
would have
look.
felt so uncomfortable.
Hmm.
Like I just don't think I could have, because I just knew. I was like, well, I've got to. The reason I had the reading was because I have to do this, but it will just be better to have some direction. It's like I'm doing this, but I'm doing it on like an inner knowing, and the fact that I know I need to. This isn't what I'm meant to do with my life anymore. But it was just great to get some direction, and you really helped me with that and helped me see it was the right choice, and then that would just open other paths. But as you said, I had to take the action. I had to go and actually do the stuff and actually quit and actually take leaps and actually put myself out there and start doing all the things that I'm now doing. But it really did help. So it really does help to give direction. But as you said, it doesn't always have to be when something's going wrong, does it? Or do you tend to see most people come to you for a reading when they are sort of going through a bit more of a tough time, or maybe some uncertainty and change?
I think that naturally for everyone, we tend to, unless we're already well versed in these sort of practices and it's already something that we love and do, it's when we go through grief, heartbreak, trauma, whatever, that we then are like, I need Reiki, I need to fix my energy, I need something, I need tarot. So it usually comes, initially, the client will usually come because they're going through some sort of major crossroads in their life. But then we end up developing a relationship. I've had the same clients for 6 years since I started doing this as a business. I've got some clients who I've really seen through, you know, multiple relationships and multiple jobs or different things that they've went on in their life. So yeah, usually it's when things are going wrong, but then once they understand how I work, it tends to just be any time of the year.
Yeah, and how often do you tell people it's sort of healthy to have a reading? Because some people can grasp onto it and want one all the time, right? To kind of
Yeah,
be told what to do. So
that's
yeah,
such a good
what's
word.
healthy?
Healthy is such a good word. Healthy, I think, is every, depending on where you are in your life and what's going on, I recommend every 6 months to 12 months. I think you've got time to work through things, you have time to make changes and see changes, and then come back and we can look at where you're at and then we can plan a bit further. If you're going through something pretty major, such as, relocating to a new country or in a relationship and you want to have sort of more guidance, I would then say after like 3 or 4 months, you might want to come back and do a short mini reading and just figure out what's going on. But on the whole, I think 6 to 12 months is perfect.
Yeah, that sounds healthy, doesn't it? Because as you said, you need some time for
You
the
need
for what's
time.
been shown to unfold and for you to go and actually take some action and get something back on it. So yeah,
Yeah.
that does feel healthy.
Yeah.
How do you personally work with the cards in your own life and for guidance?
My tarot relationship has went through so many highs and lows, ups and downs. There was a point where I, when I first started my tarot reading journey, when I just got given the cards off of the reader that I mentioned when I was 17, 18, I was pulling the cards and they were so accurate that I was like, this is just too much for me. Like, I don't want to know. I was loving living in denial. I was loving suppressing my emotions. And I was like, I don't need this. Like, I felt like they were having a go at me because I was in such denial. I was in such avoidance that I was like, I don't want that truth to be shown in my face. So I would like hide them. And I was like, I don't want anything to do with these. They're too real. Until I grew and matured and realized that, I needed to face these fears. I needed to face these shadows. And then they became a tool. But I'd say now, how do I read? I lean on them. I read them. I pull a card at least once a week just to check in with what's going on with me, my family, astrologically. What do I need to know to guide my week? And then if there's something big going on, like I recently just bought a new house, I would ask the cards, like, is this a good move? What does this look like for my family? So I would use them really consciously for big decisions. I don't really go to other readers. I used to go quite a lot to other readers, and I still think there's a lot of benefit from it, but I probably only do that once every 2 years, to be honest with you. I find that what can happen is I it's important, I think. I'm more likely to I go to a lot of Reiki sessions, I go to a lot of psychics, clairvoyance, that kind of thing. But I feel like my relationship with my deck is now at a point where I know what they're trying to tell me. Whereas if I go to another reader, it can feel like such a wildly different energy.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also you don't need to go to another reader then.
Yeah.
You have that you know what's good for you. Your energy is in the cards.
I do think that I can have a bias, and I think that's what everyone probably finds.
Okay.
So sometimes if there's a big decision and deep down I really want it to be a
Yeah.
specific answer, I can find myself searching for the specific answer, and that's where I'm like, okay, I'm going to book in with another reader for another opinion. So like with the house move, I was like, I'm going to book in with another reader just to double check that I'm not just swaying this with my bias. So that kind of thing I would, but on day to day, like what direction am I going in and stuff, I tend to check in with myself. There's some really incredible readers who I've had readings with in the last couple of years who are just phenomenal. And we've got a very similar style, therefore I can trust them. But, when I was younger, I would lean on like just going to anyone, whereas now I take it way more like, no, it needs to be a certain way.
Yeah, I think that with most spiritual practices and most spiritual tools is I feel like it's a bit of a intuition, like who do you feel like you should go to, or you get someone's vibe, because it's really important that you have, especially a tarot reading, with the right person, as you said, like it can go one way or the other, because I actually had an experience. When was it? It was last year. So I feel like I went through a bit of, when I had my spiritual awakening and a heartbreak, a tough time, you sort of going through the motions. And I always say that there's this stage where you go through the tarot stage, you go through the psychic stage, where it's more of a please tell me I'm going to be okay thing, which I definitely had a bit of. And I went to Glastonbury, not the festival, just the place, because I felt called there. And I went to the Chalice Well and the gardens and stuff. And while I was there, I just happened to be walking past the shop and it was like, oh, Oracle card reader. And I thought, oh, why not? Like, I'm in Glastonbury. And honestly, it was awful. I cried.
Mm-hmm.
It was so awful. The lady who did it, I mean, I should have known it was Glastonbury. It was very like sort of touristy, and I didn't get a good, as the moment I sat down, our energies were off. We did not get on. And she told me things that it was just not nice. It was not. And she, as you said, like the way she worded it was really terrible. It was a bit like, yeah, this is never going to happen for you. And it was like, what? And I was in quite a fragile state, and it was just not. I learnt the lesson though. I learnt that. But I think I needed to learn that lesson,
I
like
think
reflecting back.
that's awful because I have noticed this myself from going to other readers, and that's why I'm so cautious now of doing it myself or who I go to. But there's definitely a type of person who, and I say this to clients sometimes. Recently I've made a decision. I think I might have said this to you previously, but I recently made the decision. I'm no longer doing. When I started off doing my business, if I got asked to do a wedding, if I got asked to do a hen party, I would do it because I love the practice and I was like, it'll be good. But what I found was when you go into those spaces, they want the shock factor. They want you to sort of perform as a tarot reader. It's like this performance almost. And I would sit there like, I've not got anything shocking to say. Your husband isn't leaving you, or I'm not trying to scare you or shock you here. So I've decided really consciously to pull myself out of those spaces. I will still do brand events because I love them, and if they're the right aligned brand, I'll do them and things. But I do not want to be seen as a performance piece anymore. And I think that's where there's still a lot of work to do in the spiritual space, because so many people, readers, think they have to give this like shocking, like, oh my goodness, like she told me this and it changed my entire life. It doesn't have to be that. You can change your life by just giving somebody reassurance, like, yeah, you're on the right path. Yeah. That could be life changing, and I hear of so many things where people just get like told and treated horrendously, and it's not trauma aware and it's not safe, it's not ethical. So yeah, I'm really big on not being a performance piece.
Yeah, totally. And I totally agree with that. And also, as you said, if someone's come to you because they're, in an uncertain time or a bad way, and you tell them something, you say it in a way that is going to make them feel a lot worse and give up hope, yeah, then I think that is super dangerous, because especially if someone's really vulnerable.
I always question, what do you get out of this as well? Because as a reader, I have had some difficult conversations, and things weren't going well in people's lives, and obviously it's really like sometimes I feel like I'm going to start crying because I'm like, oh, I don't want to have to deliver this. I don't really want to be having this conversation, but here we are. So I can't imagine how you would feel willingly just trying to like
do it. Yeah. It is weird.
Like after you left that room that you were in, how would she have felt? Like, did she think, oh, I've done a good job? Like I would, yeah.
I know, it was awful. It was honestly awful. And I did think, why is she doing that? And why did she behave like that? She was not warm. She was not, it was really weird. And it's these kind of people that give it a bad name, isn't it? And not just tarot readings, but, in this kind of space, if someone has a bad experience, and why a lot of people don't trust psychics and things like that. I think what do you think about this actually? The connotations to the word psychic, because as something that I would love to like break, because I think psychic just means to be seen. And I think that's what scares people. They're like, they're going to see into my soul and see all this stuff. But for me, I feel like psychic can be so empowering, especially if it's you. Like, we all have intuition, and I just see it as my psychic sense is my intuition. But there's such a connotation around the word psychic. Do you agree at all?
Yeah, totally. And I think that's such a good topic, because I think that people often forget that they have the power and they have control over their own mind. So, it doesn't happen as much anymore, but when I first started doing readings, people used to say, I'm worried you'll tell me something and it's going to change my life. And I was like, but how could it? Unless you took the action steps, I couldn't force something bad to happen to you. How could I possibly, if I had that kind of power, I would be probably in jail. Why would I and if I had that kind of power, I probably would be doing much bigger things in the world, working for the FBI, not sitting in this studio reading your cars. But if I was able to change the trajectory of the entire planet, I wouldn't be sitting here.
Yeah, I totally agree that. I think that I'd be working for the police. I'd be doing some cool stuff. Catching murderers.
But I think the word psychic, people, I don't know. I don't know. You're right. It is. I think of it as someone who just knows themselves so deeply, who believes in the cycles and the rhythms on the earth, who believes in the power of the lunar cycle, who just believes in something bigger than we are ourselves. But I think people hear it and they instantly think, they're going to either hurt me, scam me, see me too much. I don't want to hear it. I think a lot of society loves that ignorance is bliss sort of approach. And I think slowly people are waking up. I definitely see a difference in just the 5-6 years I've had my business. I see a huge difference. But it's a weird one. I even hold a lot of embarrassment sometimes when I say what I do. It's polarizing.
Exactly.
It's very polarizing. I really miss when I worked in fashion and I was like, oh, I work for a magazine, and objectively there was like a blanket, oh, that's cool, like, what do you do? Whereas now I say, oh, I own a spiritual wellness studio, or I'm a tarot reader, or whatever. And there's automatically like a, either obsessed, I love this, tell me everything, or there's a, oh, I don't believe in that. And then suddenly like a huge piece of judgment. And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, I can totally see that. And that's why I think there is this, there's two sides. As you said, people love it, or people are like, oh my God, no, not for me. Like, that's not true. And I just think with the skeptics, I don't know if you have found this as well, because we are both from, you were from fashion, I was from banking, weren't always in this. And I do feel that the people around me, now that I have opened up so much, my life has changed so much. I know, I have changed internally, and I have psychic senses like we all do, but I'm very in touch with mine. I do think people around me have been like, okay, well, Hannah's normal. And Hannah, was in banking, and actually look at this, like, she's gone from here to here. She's super happy. I do think it's made people around me be a bit like, so like, tell me about Reiki and tell me about tarot and all this stuff. But I have to be honest, and I really try not to, but the word psychic, I find myself saying it to people and I think, oh God, like, I've just said psychic, and they're like, what, you're psychic? But then again, like, things happen all the time and I'm like, oh God, I'm so psychic. Like, I know someone's going to call me, and they do. Or I think about someone, I text them and they're like, I was just thinking about you. And that's what it is, it's not scary. It's just when you've got your intuition. I just think of it as intuition, and it's like some people are more got the dial switched higher than others because of things they've worked through. But I do feel that the to be seenness of psychicness scares people, but really it's an absolute superpower because you can see yourself more.
Absolutely. And I love the feeling, like when you said it's like a radio station or something, it's like you're just tuned into a higher frequency, and everyone has the ability to tune into that frequency if they choose to, but some people are naturally just going to tune in higher than others, and without trying, it's hard, or because of the situations they've been through, they are more inclined to do that. But yeah, I know, I kind of find myself, the word holds so much almost like shame. It shouldn't hold any shame, but it does. I think it's a lot to do with people wanting to be in control of their own lives, but maybe not believing they are. I think there's a bit of that going on, and obviously, probably a lot of it stems from misogyny, like looking back in the patriarchy.
Yeah, and obviously me and you are both Reiki masters, and I think Reiki has really blasted open my psychicness, to be honest.
Yes.
Like much more, like feeling energy, So it's a dial. We all have access to it, but as you said, naturally more easy for some than others, depending on, their blueprint and their life. But also we can all tune into it, but it does take work. Like I work on my intuition every day.
Yeah. And it does. It's a muscle, isn't it? You have to.
It's a muscle.
Yeah, you have to exercise and push it. And I think as well, more and more people, just culturally, society, like in the West, I think, are sort of saying like, oh, I don't know if I want this corporate job. I don't know if I want to be glued to my desk. Is there more to life? And maybe people, especially post-COVID, are finding their structures have changed so much, and they have the way they spend their time is so different and things like that. So I think naturally there's more people curious to it. I think curiosity is where it's kind of at, and I think it'll lead to more and more people doing it.
Yeah, and I think that's great. Why not be curious? You're not committing to anything. You're just curious. Like, I think being curious is one of the best things you can be, because why not?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and you said that, and I know you do a lot of work for brands and companies, right? So has that been sort of a new thing? Like, so people actually have you into their corporate to do tarot readings, which is quite a big step, right, in society.
Yes. So it's been really eye-opening, and I think it's where I love to be in a lot of ways, because I'm getting to show this amazing tool to people who maybe wouldn't come across it, or if it wasn't given to them on a plate, they probably wouldn't go and seek it out, but their company's saying like, oh, you can get a Reiki session with Jade, or you can get a reading with Jade, and it's really empowerment focused. So therefore I know that they're going back to their desk and they're actually improving their working afternoon. And that's exactly what I needed. When I said to you before, I was burnt out in fashion, I was tired, I was crying all the time, I was depleted. I would have loved if there was a tarot reader in the office who could have just given me like a little nudge in a certain direction. It would have like healed me on so many levels. So I get so much joy out of being able to deliver that. Now, the difference, I guess, is the tarot is so suited to brands who are wanting to do like a PR event, a party, loads of beauty brands, loads of fashion brands. So at their launch of a new product or at the launch of a new collection, like going along and getting a reading, and that's beautiful. The corporate stuff is definitely more of like dip the toe in the water. So we might do a bit of Reiki and then we might build up to it. But I've always found the results to be really like, I've never really had, even the people you would least expect, like the guy who's in a suit at his office desk, he's still like, oh, I want to give this a go, I'm really interested, because everyone's got stuff going on behind the scenes. Everyone has stuff going on at home. Everyone is worried about something. So it can help everyone, no matter how outside appearances may seem.
Yeah, definitely is the curiosity thing. And I think even in, obviously in this more like wellnessy spiritual space, it's popping up a lot more. I mean, I had a tarot reader and astrology reader at my birthday party, but I went to an event last weekend, we're in November now, and it was a sober party. It was Alex Mitten had run it. It was, do you know him? He does retreats and stuff. It was his party, but there was loads of people there, and there was tarot readers, well, oracle and tarot readers, and there was loads of guys having readings, and like you could see that they were like really listening, really into it. So I think it's becoming, it is becoming more kind of normalized, which I love. But the other thing I really wanted to quickly ask is, if someone's listening, what's the difference, because I get asked this a lot, what's the difference between tarot and oracle cards?
So the tarot deck is the structure, and the tarot have an ability to go into, both of them go into a whole lot of depth. So the tarot is a classic structure that I feel is able to give you a really rounded view of, you can go so deep and so niche with the tarot. I think the tarot can be really niche on specific questions or specific things that are going on. The oracle, to me, and this is my personal opinion, is more of an overall. You might get spirit oracle, you might get animal oracle, you might get crystal oracle. Like, they have their own sort of benefit. So it might be ones that are really good for you to connect with a goddess. They might be really good for you to connect with a spirit animal, and it'll give you guidance. But the guidance, to me, is kind of like broad guidance, like this is your spirit animal and this means that you are intuitive and capable, and it'll give you so much empowerment for the day. Whereas the tarot are like, no, that person in your life needs to go and you are doing this wrong and you need to start doing that more. So it's way more niche and condensed, I think.
Yeah, that makes sense. I often, like, I have a spirit animal oracle deck, and it is just that. It's kind of like you pull one. It's not so much of it's not so much of like a journey or a path as a tarot reading is. Yeah. And with tarot though, do you think, I mean, I know there is a set thing that you learn the meanings of the cards, but with oracle cards, for example, if you're trying to enhance your intuition, you can pull an oracle card and not check the book. You can look at the card, you can see what it feels like to you. That's not the case so much in tarot, is it? Or is it?
Well, when I'm doing my tarot, I teach tarot. So when I'm doing my tarot masterclasses, something I always say to people, it wouldn't work as much with these cards specifically because they're more art-based, so they don't have the same like symbolism as classic ones. But I always say to people, before you look at the guidebook or you look at your keywords, look at what color is it, and does yellow make you feel a certain way? Look at any symbolism. There's a lion there. What does a lion make you think of? And pick apart these like little nuances and these little symbols and begin to think intuitively, what do they mean to you? And you'll be really surprised how quickly you then are like, oh, yellow, it kind of makes me feel strong. I think of the sun, I think of growth. And, you know, that can link into something.
Yeah, no, perfect. And I know you're going to pull a few cards in a minute, but just before we do that, the other thing that was popping into my head to mention was when someone comes for a reading, and again, I was guilty of this back in the day, do you ever get people that are like, well, maybe you don't see it as much because it'll be after the reading, but that someone's had a tarot reading and they're like, everything's going to be fine. I don't need to do anything. I can just sit and chill. And it's kind of like the action piece. But I definitely have seen that from people. And I think I was a bit more like that back when my journey first started, where I was like, okay, no, like it's all going to work out. It's all going to be fine, which is good. But it's that sort of like, well, no, because, you know, the psychic told me it's all good. So it's all good. I don't need to do anything, you know?
Yeah. I see it a lot where someone will come and maybe 3 years later, they'll ask me the same question. And I will be like, did you record? Because I let people record if they want. So I'm like, did you record your reading? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, so I maybe said to you that you needed to do X, Y, Z. And I'm like, have you done that in the last 3 years? No, well, work's been busy and I've not had time. And I just like, I didn't think I needed to. And I'm like, well, I'm just going to probably give you the same. It might be totally different, but like likely it might be the same sort of answer. Like as it doesn't frustrate me as much as it used to. It used to frustrate me because I used to think that I wore it as people blaming me. So I used to often find if someone came back and they were like, you told me that I could, you know, get a promotion and I didn't get the promotion. And I'm like, but did you do the course I suggested that you do? Did you do the networking I suggested that you do? And they're like, no. Whereas I used to get like frustrated and I'm like, well, that's your problem then, you know? So I think my reaction to it has shifted. I kind of like laugh and I'm like, well, you're going to have to do something. Whereas before I used to be like, oh my God, have I offended them? But you know, it does take work.
Yeah, and I imagine that's a lot of like probably in relationships and love. If someone's looking for a soulmate, then the cards can say it's definitely in your path, right? Like you will meet a soulmate if. Yeah. And for me, it was more, and I knew it as well. I think it came up in my reading with you 18 months ago. You were like, definitely there. But for me, I knew at the time as well, I needed to become the version of me that was that person to meet this person that I'm going to be with. And I very much felt that. And I was very kind of firm with myself that I didn't want to just be in a relationship for the sake of it. I wanted to be in the right relationship, and I wanted to make sure that I had healed stuff from past relationships. So I wasn't going to bring that in with me. And, you know, so that was the journey I knew I had to go on. It wasn't about going and finding this person. It was about finding the right version of me to be a match for this person. But I don't feel like that's a common way of looking at it, is it? It's like, oh, this person's going to come into my life, so I'm good.
I think the best way of thinking about it is if you had a personal trainer and you were doing really hard workouts with them in the gym, and then you were going home and eating loads of chocolate, and then going back to the PT and then being like, well, on your Instagram you've got before and afters and she looks so much better than me. And the PT's like, well, why is she not losing the weight? What is she not doing? And it's like, you're not making the informed decision. So I think that's kind of how I see it now, where it's like, yeah, your soulmate is out there. There's a possibility that you could be in a really happy relationship. But if you're on your ex-boyfriend's Instagram every night, like stalking his new girlfriend and like being bitter, you're not in the right vibe, you know?
Yeah.
Which I see a lot.
Yeah,
I'm like,
exactly.
People are like, oh yeah, but I'm still texting my ex because like it's better to have someone than have no one. And I'm like, this energy isn't right. You're not like, do you think like, you know, you're in the right vibes? You're not. So there's so much, you know what the word I think we're looking for here is accountability. You have to take accountability.
Yeah, definitely.
And you have,
becoming,
Hannah, like, you really becoming have that version of accountability. I feel like
I really have. I'm so ready. But I think I've learned that the answers are all within me, and I needed to go on the journey to realize that, and I needed to learn that. And I don't reach for a psychic and I don't reach for tarot in that way ever anymore. It's always in okay, I've just got a lot of directions, I just want to narrow it down, or as you said, like I'll pull a card for myself every now and then, but I don't feel the need to look externally for all the answers anymore, which is which is nice and great, and that's what I want for everyone.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. But let's pull some cards. Have you got a
Yeah, let's pull some
question?
cards.
Have you got a question that you would like to ask?
I'm sure I do. I mean, it could be the classic, my soulmate, but we know he's nearly here, so we don't need to do that one. Let's do. Well, I mean, does it have to be? You don't like asking the tarot deck for timings, though, do you?
No, let's not do timings, but let's let's do open like development questions. So funnily enough, just as you were talking, I decided what card am I going to like just check in with Hannah's overall energy. 6 of Wands instantly came up, which is your card that you got the first time I read for you, being seen and being like, yeah, it's recognition, it's reward for the way you've put yourself out there. The wands as an element are fire. So when we're thinking of wands, we're thinking about that like charge, that being like, you know, not being afraid of like being out there, the feistiness, the passion, the like go, go, go energy can come with the wands. Sometimes it can be impulsive, but it's like, no, I'm ready for it to be big, I'm ready to blow. And I think that's with your career. I think you're like, I'm ready to blow up, I'm ready to be seen, I'm ready to be on the podcast, I'm ready to do these things. So I love that for you.
That couldn't be more spot on. I have literally just started working with an agent as well, like a PR agent, and it's been a really positive response. And I'm doing interviews, and yeah, I'm basically going to be seen a lot more. And
But you're
I'm ready for it. I've worked on that. Yeah, I've really worked on that. I've worked on being safe to be seen, and I know who I am now. I know what my purpose is. I know what my work is. And it feels amazing. So yeah, that's a spot on card. And it's on the back of like hard work as well, isn't it? Like I have put in the work.
And when you do blow up, I definitely think it's this feeling of the nervous system is able to lean into it. You're not going to go into fight or flight. You're not going to make it all crumble and self-sabotage. It's like you've done the work to be seen. So when you are seen, it's reward rather than like fear that comes up.
Yeah.
We definitely. Also,
do you know?
Sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, go for it. I was gonna say about travel, but you go.
Let's do travel. What was your travel question?
No. You say you go first, and then we'll do that.
I just started pulling some cards just to see where you are within your energy, but just the concept. Let's just take travel as a topic. Page of Cups, King of Pentacles. I would have said travel needs to be creative and experimental, and it needs to be explorative. So it's not traveling to, if you're planning on traveling, it's going to places like Nepal, India, somewhere there's a sacred energy within it. There's something in it that's like, I'm learning about a new culture, I'm getting so much inspiration from this trip. Rather than, nothing wrong with it, but going to Ibiza with the girls, amazing, do it, absolutely. But travel for you right now needs to be like, I'm learning about culture practices. It's bigger, it's educational.
Wow, yeah. I mean, that's literally been the last year as well. Like Egypt, I was called to Egypt, and that was a big trip for me. But I feel like there might be some travel in work as well.
Well, that's very King of Pentacles. It was my next thing. Pentacles are your security, they're your abundance, they're your practical. So it could be money, it could be contracts, it could be housing, it could be, gifting, like a brand gifting you a stay at their hotel. It could be these different types of things. That the King of Pentacles is like, I think you should experience what it's like to be paid to travel. So you might be...
Oh, that's so good.
So I think there could be opportunities like in that sense of being seen, like maybe doing an interview, but you're going over to LA and you're in, we spoke about how you love LA before, and going to LA and you're being seen there, and it's bringing in money as well as the experience. So it's this beautiful combination of the experience and the emotion and the finances and the contracts behind it.
Oh, bliss. This is what I've been working for 3 years. Good. So I'm glad it's there. Okay, and also just one last one, just to satisfy everyone listening as well. Yeah. Let's just pull on love.
Yay! Of course, balance. It's about duality, the balance card. And I think that when we look at your approach to love, it is very balanced. Like you are really aware that it's not going to be this like instant, like quick fix. You're wanting something with longevity. You're wanting something with so much meaning and foundations behind it. And that has to come when you're feeling balanced. And it has to come from a place of everything working. It's not, yeah, you've got so many wands coming up today, to be honest with you. Of course, the Hierophant comes up, which is the marriage, classic marriage, conforming,
that's come up every time, isn't it?
Relationship structure, like what do you want? There's an amazing, actually found it so fascinating to read this morning. Vogue released an article called "Is Having a Boyfriend Embarrassing Now?" I don't know if you've read it. It's really blown up.
I saw that. Yeah,
I love that writer. I think Shanti, I think is her name, and I think it's how you, Shanti J. But she is amazing. I followed her on Instagram for a long time, and I love this article. But I love how it's kind of coming up in my head with the Hierophant, because it's like that conversation around having a man in your life who is adding value. You've got it all. You've got your house. You've got your beautiful house in London. You have a great career path. You have amazing friends. You have opportunities. You don't need a man to complete you, but you need him. If you want a man and you want to date and you want to get married, it's for someone to add value to this bond and to this relationship and to leverage you up and to grow together. So I love that energy is really in here, where it's like you're going to meet someone while you're feeling whole, and then their whole comes together.
Yes.
But all of the
That's
wands
exactly
are fast.
it.
And I said this to you recently, but it feels like things are going to happen quickly when they do happen.
Yeah, and that would make a lot of sense, because things haven't happened quickly over the last few years, because I have needed this time. I actually don't, at the time, maybe even a year ago, I was like, oh yeah, I could be in a relationship, but I don't think I really felt that. I think the difference now is I really feel that, because I feel like it's been, and I think me and you have spoke about this, it's actually been very sacred and a bit of I feel like a privilege to have had this time. To like really, don't get me wrong, like it's been full of ups and downs, but it's been a pleasure to have this time to myself, to figure everything out, to heal, to kind of be like, no, I know who I am now. And as you just said, the right man for me is a man that's also very whole in himself, and we can come together and be two happy, whole people in a partnership. And I really feel that I wouldn't have been able to attract that or have that if I hadn't had this time to myself to really, it was obviously part of my path. Not everyone is meant to do that.
Yes.
But so that feels really nice. And I've always wanted the traditional. I do think that is, for me, the Hierophant card. Like, yeah, I do, as much as I'm not conventional in many ways, I do like a conventional relationship. When I'm in it, I'm in it. Like, I don't need to be in a relationship, but when I'm in one, I am all in.
And this feels to me exactly what the reading was reflecting too, where it's like you don't need somebody, but you want them, and that person, you are willing to wait for the person who is not going to be a burden and a drain, but is actually going to lift you higher. And I think that's what every healthy, happy relationship should do. It should lift each other up, and you should be there to sort of enhance life rather than to tick a box and say, oh, well, I've got somebody there for. And I think that's what that article was saying so beautifully. It's like, it's not a flex. It's not an award to be a woman who's married. It's, if you've met the right person and you're in the right relationship, it's a beautiful thing, but it shouldn't be seen as like, I've won at life because I've got this.
Well, I think that's also collectively what we've been seeing over the last 5 to 10 years is exactly that. Mm-hmm. Like, back in the day, women got married because that was what you did. And now the people that have maybe found that they had done that aren't happy, and that they might have to get a divorce, which is nothing wrong with that. You should if it's right for you. But I think this whole rhetoric around you're not worthy unless you are married by a certain age is definitely diminishing. I think I personally, I would say this, but it's so much more powerful to be happy on your own and to wait for the right person than to be with someone for the sake of it. But I have never been that person. Like I just don't have it in me to be in a relationship for the sake of it. I've been in 3 big relationships in my life, and I have been very in love in all 3 of them in different ways. And this one now feels, the next one, I needed to go through everything I've been through, because this next one relationship and the guy who I now need, who is a match for me, is different to anyone I've ever met.
I love it. I love it. I couldn't agree more. I was single for a year before I met my now husband, and I had the best time. And I actually was at the point when I met him that I was like, oh, I'm not, for the first time in my life, I'm not putting my value and my worth and everything on having a boyfriend. And for so many in my early 20s, I think it's really common. I chased like, oh, well, if, if he fancies me, then I must be pretty, or if he thinks I'm worth it, then I must be. And I got to this point where I was like, oh my God, I'm just so happy. My friends are great. My career's going really well. I'm just so happy. And it was at that point that I then met someone who mirrored that back to me rather than tried to mold me into what they needed me to be.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. That is what you want. And it was when you weren't looking for it.
Wasn't looking for it at all. I was actively not looking for it, actually.
Yeah, and I definitely don't think I've been looking for it. I feel like now, though, I still can't look for it. I still can't be like, right, I'm going on a dating apps don't feel right to me. They just don't. And, intuitively, I just have to listen to that. But I will go, if my intuition tells me to go somewhere random, I will go. Like I will follow things in that way. But, and I feel the difference now is I want the relationship. I don't need it. I need it in certain ways because I'm a human being and, but I want it. I want the expansion with a partner. I don't need to be saved. And I'm definitely not here to save anyone else ever again.
Love that.
Yeah, it's exciting. So thank you. I'm glad the cards were right. That was a bit of a risk doing that, but
it paid off. It was fine. I love that.
Amazing.
I could talk to you all day, but
I know, amazing. So we'll finish up here. But is there anything you want to leave anyone with for anyone that's kind of listening and on the edge about tarot, maybe?
I think I would say begin to see them like a best friend. Begin to see them like the really honest best friend or therapist in your back pocket or in your handbag that you can tap into to get wisdom when you feel a bit lonely, when you feel happy, sad, anything in between. And I would say as well, remember that all of these practices are only awakening, whether it's tarot, Reiki, crystal healing, meditation, breathwork, whatever. All of these practices are only awakening something that's already within you. They're not giving you something, they're just awakening it. It's already there.
Yeah, I love that. That's so true. And the power is within you. The power is within you. And where can the listeners find you, Jade?
You can find me on Instagram at Jade Mordente. I've also got a studio in Edinburgh called Calm and Chaos, so you can find that as well. And yeah, on TikTok, all social media is at Jade Mordente.
Amazing. And just to let everyone know, I've been to Calm and Chaos and it's beautiful. And if you're ever in Edinburgh, you must go.
Thank you. It was so good having you, Ellen. It was so good. I'm actually heading there right now.
Beautiful. So. Are you? Okay. Yeah. Well, we'll let you go then. But thank you so much. I've loved this and I wanted to do this episode for ages, so I'm thrilled.
Forever. Thank you so much, Hannah.
Yeah. Thank you, Jade. Bye. Bye.